I'm Kat Timpf, along with Eric Bolling and Eboni K. Williams. This is the Fox News Specialists. And this is a Fox News alert. A confirmation vote is underway for FBI Director nominee Christopher Wray. You're looking at a live view of the Senate floor. We'll be bringing you the result of that vote when we have it. But first, our top story. The war against White House leaks is heating up. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is reportedly planning a press conference this Friday to outline stepped-up efforts to crack down on leaks in the Trump White House, an issue that's dogged the administration since day one.
I have not been happy with the past prosecutions and investigations of criminal leaks. We've already taken a number of steps. We're stepping up those cases. It cannot continue. Some people need to go to jail. If we can make cases, they are going to jail.
And Fox News judicial analyst Judge Napolitano didn't mince words either.
But the type of leaks that have bedeviled Donald Trump, that have commenced the entire mess that he's in now, including with the special prosecutor, began when Susan Rice and her colleagues, she's admitted to some of this, engaged in unmasking, revealing the true names of people who participated in conversations that were captured by American and British intelligence.
New chief of staff, we have Sessions going after this. Do you think we're going to get this figured out?
I do, and I think AG Sessions got the memo of the last 2 weeks where President Trump saying, hey, I'm losing a little confidence in you. Guess what happens? Sessions steps up, plug the darn leaks, and General John Kelly, COS, that's Chief of Staff, Corey, in case you were wondering, also is going to plug the leaks. And I think I think there will be leaks going forward. But I think if you look at the information that's leaked, it'll be old stuff. I think from here going forward, they're going to plug that White House up. So anything you see is likely going to be old stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, the leaks thing has definitely been a problem. Obama tried to have a war on leaks, didn't really go so well. Eric, I agree with you. You know, I think certainly Jeff Sessions is stepping up. I think that there's a real legitimate fear in the Trump White House that if you don't do your job to an effective level, you're going to get the axe. So I think that definitely Jeff Sessions got that memo. And, you know, I'm expecting to see him be tougher, not just on leaks, but on these prosecutions across the board.
All right, well, time to meet today's specialists. He is a former United States attorney in Washington, D.C., a former chief counsel and staff director of the Senate Rules Committee, and the founding partner of the Washington, D.C. law firm diGenova and Toensing. And he clearly specializes in being a legal powerhouse. Joseph diGenova is here. And he is the former chief political advisor to Donald J. Trump for president, the former campaign manager to Donald J. Trump for president, and is back on the Fox News Specialists by popular demand. He specializes in all things political. Corey Lewandowski is here. Right. Corey, you've been working with the president in some capacity, talking to the president all the time. This has been something that's been a huge problem his entire time in the White House, the leaks.
It has been, and I think what you've seen from this administration and now from Attorney General Jeff Sessions, and I think from Chief of Staff General Kelly, is it's time to put a stop to this. And the leaks that are the most troubling, I think, to the administration are not the personal leaks, the backbiting that takes place in every White House and are made public, but the intelligence community leaks, which are information which is being shared in a small audience, which is then finding its way into the public domain. The concern there is the classification of the information and how that's being disseminated. Further, if you look at what Jim Comey did, where he publicly admitted under oath during a congressional hearing that he gave out information that he received when he was the FBI director to a friendly associate, specifically a college professor, so he knew that information would get to the general public. That is a leak that cannot continue to be perpetuated in this administration. They're going to crack down on those.
Eboni, what do you think? I mean, some of the information that's been leaked is concerning to me on its own. I also understand how the leaks, they create a serious environment where there's no trust at all in the White House. That could be a huge problem.
Oh, absolutely it is. But I want to go back to Corey's point, and, you know, I know the Comey thing is not what you want to be doing. We don't want to be perpetuating that. But I agree with you, Corey. My real issue are the national security leaks, the things that have Theresa May and other allies across the globe questioning, hey, do we give as much information as we have been traditionally to the U.S. if this is going to be a problem that's going to affect our national security globally? I'm talking about many countries in Europe. I'm talking about Israel and other allies. That's a real serious threat.
What really matters is why did this start and when did it start? This started in the Obama administration when they decided to unmask people who were disclosed in intelligence intercepts. When they made the decision to unmask Trump people, U.S. senators, congressmen, get that information, it is clear, well, from what we know on the public record, that a purposeful effort was made to leak that information to key sources in the press, to embarrass people, to create conflict. It continued after the new president came.
The unmasking or the leaking? Because we know those are different things.
The unmasking, in my opinion, was clearly improper, probably illegal for political reasons. The leaking was definitely criminal activity and should have been the subject of a criminal investigation from the very beginning of this administration.
Trump has had a tough time since he got in there. Look, everyone knew that the left was going to give him a hard time. They knew the progressives were going to give him a hard time. His issue is, and my issue is, that he's being attacked from his own party. He's being attacked from people who look like GOPers, who certainly aren't conservative and certainly aren't pro-Trump. Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the people not only leaking but pushing back on his agenda should be on his side and hoping for a more solid and more leak.
On his side, how? Do you mean by not leaking, or do you mean by other things besides
absolutely
that?
Pushing back on policy, but also by a lot of the people who are leaking, my guess, are Republicans.
Well, they are, but you have to remember, and this is the fault of the administration, they have not moved fast enough to fill the position, so you have a number of holdovers from the Obama administration still sitting in key positions where they have access to information that don't want to see the president's agenda move forward. We call that the deep state.
But
those
Corey,
are the people that are there.
That's not the only source of the leak,
No,
right?
it's not the only source, but what we have seen time and again is if this administration would move faster and put their political appointees in place, the 4,152 that the president has the privilege to appoint, then some of that would be controlled. Not all of it, but you also have to understand there are people in the federal government who did not support the president and his agenda and want to do everything they can to destroy him from fixing the country.
You know, the other thing, too, is, I mean, there are a lot of people who thought some of the people who were in the White House, who are not in the White House right now, may have been the source of some of the leaks.
That's my question.
But in other administrations, if you're caught doing that, you're outcast. You can't go find a job anywhere else. You're the person that was leaking on the Obama administration or the Bush administration, and you become a political
It's a credibility problem.
Now it's almost like, hey, you leaked on Trump. Come on, we have a job.
You're rewarded for it. No, I think that's accurate. And correct me if I'm wrong as well, Corey. I think on Fox and Friends, you were talking about some of the potential leaks that were appointed by President Trump and still proved to be a problem. So I guess that's my question, Corey, is how does the president move steadfast with not just appointing his own people, but making sure those appointments are consistent with his agenda and his well-being?
I think this is the primary focus of General Kelly. He is now the chief of staff. He's not the chief of the president. He's going to make sure that the staff that is surrounding the president is dedicated to one thing, which is moving the president's agenda forward. And look, I don't know General Kelly well, but I'm sure his first staff meeting, everybody paid attention. He's a law and order kind of chief of staff. He's a four-star general. He took Baghdad, one of those people. He's been a stalwart at the Department of Homeland Security, fixing part of the problem over there. And he's going to bring a sense of normalcy to that staff. And what he's going to say is, look, you don't have to be part of the staff, but if you are going to be part of the staff, we're all going to be on the same team. We're not going to have backbiting and infighting anymore. We're going to be around one team. We're going to be a cohesive team, and we're going to be on the president's team.
Joe, honestly, though, Joe, I think one of the issues is also President Trump could do himself a lot of good by just not talking about Russia at all, because the stories coming out of the White House surrounding some of these things that have been leaked have changed with every leak. And if he would just not talk about it, there wouldn't be those issues.
Look, Donald Trump is Donald Trump. No one is going to change his behavior. He is a unique individual. He's not a politician. And let me just say this, backing up Eric's point. Those senators, those members of the House of Representatives whose seats were saved by Donald Trump, no one could have done for them what Donald Trump did for them. The loyalty that they owe him is unbelievable. And what they did on the health care bill, what they did in the Senate to abandon this president was unbelievably cowardly. Those three senators, Collins, Murkowski, and McCain, whatever you think about them generally, what they did was a disgrace, and they betrayed their president.
That's the policy side. I want to go back to Corey on something I think is very important to move this discussion, the ball forward. Corey, when you were running the campaign, there wasn't this stuff going on. I remember this distinctly. I watched you guys every single day. What can they do to change to fix this? I mean, I know it's not a campaign anymore; it's an administration. But you were very strong keeping that group cohesive. What can they, besides bringing you back, and are they? But in lieu of that, what else can they do?
Look, I think staff leadership starts at the top, and it's very important that General Kelly is coming in as a proven leader, someone who has leadership management and skills and a proven record of managing individuals in the toughest environments, including the war zones. And what he's bringing to the White House is an opportunity for a fresh start for a number of the employees who probably didn't have that. So right or wrong, it doesn't matter. You now have a clean slate with General Kelly.
But Corey, is that too regimented? Is the military background too regimented for a Trump administration, which frankly, there's not a lot of discipline. That's what I love about it. It's not a very disciplined campaign/administration, and I like that better because I think it's more real.
Well, I don't think you never change Donald Trump. No one's going to change Donald Trump. He has been successful for the last 40 years in real estate, on television, and books, running for office. When no one said he could be, he's the greatest we've ever seen in all of these things. But the point is this. You have to bring some structure to the staff. If that means you control within relative amount who speaks to the president on policy issues. So it's not just the open door that anybody can say anything they want. That is the structure that is beneficial. Now, I think General Kelly is going to understand. He's not going to change the president. The president's still going to make phone calls to people and friends and colleagues and contemporaries to get their opinions. But the general should have some say when policy discussions that are going to affect the country are going to be made.
Does he have confidence in Steve Bannon? Because Steve Bannon is his senior policy advisor. Does the general, as you just pointed out, he has to have confidence in the policy? Do they see eye to eye?
I don't know where those two sit, but what I do think is the general's going to take some time. He's going to evaluate the staff. We saw the first decision that he made was to ask somebody to leave already. I think he's very clear that it's going to be his way on the staff side. And if there are people in that administration who are not on the president's agenda and they're evaluated, they'll be gone.
Okay, to Eric's point, though, Corey, of kind of it's sort of too much discipline when it comes to someone, kind of has as much bravado as President Trump. I want to know your take, because you were very, very effective, and I gave you much credit for that yesterday on the show, to get President Trump out of that primary. But going into the general, obviously we know Manafort came on board. I thought a more succinct, more disciplined message. Do you think that's kind of what we're seeing with this new chief of staff with General Kelly?
No, look, you have to let Trump be Trump. I've said it 100 times in my life. Anybody who thinks they're going to change the president is not going to, because he's the greatest communicator we've ever seen as an elected official. There's no question about it.
But do you think he was different in the general, Corey? Because I thought that he wasn't.
No, look, the president during the campaign was the same person. He had the same message, the same messaging points. He's the one who drove those messages. Anybody who thinks that they were successful and caused him to be successful is naive. This campaign was 99.9% Donald Trump, and everybody else had a 0.01% role in it. He was the messenger that the American people wanted.
All right, well, we're keeping an eye on the Senate vote to confirm Christopher Wray as the new FBI director, and we'll bring it to you when we have it. Next up, though, the health care debate is still fresh. And now President Trump is threatening to withhold crucial government payments in an effort to undermine the Affordable Care Act. Coming right back with that.
You made it right. I made it crazy. Oh, but it just made me a lunatic, y'all.
All right, this just in. Christopher Wray has the votes to be confirmed as the new FBI director. We'll bring you more as soon as we have it. Now, back to health care. It's still a hot topic after the skinny repeal of Obamacare failed to pass in the Senate last week. Senate Republicans seem to be in no rush to revive the Obamacare repeal, despite President Trump's demands. And in the House, a new 5-point plan from a bipartisan problem solvers caucus proposes to stabilize the individual health insurance market. Meanwhile, President Trump is pushing back, tweeting, quote, "If Obamacare is hurting people, and it is, why shouldn't it hurt the insurance companies? And why should Congress not be paying what the public pays?" Corey, that last thing from President Trump is what a lot of Americans all across this country feel. They feel that these premiums are too high, they're crippling, they're oppressive. And why does Congress get this special treatment in a way that the rest of America doesn't?
Well, it's a great question. Joe knows this because he worked there. I know this because you worked there in Congress, right? They always have special privileges. They carve out the laws because these guys take care of themselves and not the American people. For the first time in a long time, the American people sent a change to Washington to get rid of this. Look, Congress should follow the same rules as everybody else. Congress should have the same health care of everybody else. But you know what they do? They exempt themselves from the rules. And when they're supposed to follow the rules, they say, well, I'll give my office the exemption and my staff's going to be taken care of.
And that's exactly why every time one of these members of the House and Senate appears on television, they should be asked, is your staff and are you getting the 75% premium subsidy from the government to pay for your health premiums? It's absolutely outrageous. Every time they appear on television, they should be asked that question. Watch them sweat.
I'll go further. So when Senator McCain flew back from Arizona to D.C. to cast a vote that allow for debate to continue. I saw a lot of my Democrat and progressive friends just ream him, say, you know, he's using government health care to fly back and take health care from 22 million people. But then, of course, we know how the story ends. Senator McCain votes to make sure that the repeal doesn't happen. So what's your take on that?
Give the guy a break. I mean, listen, I strenuously object to his final vote, which was to vote against the bill. But if he's you know, he got elected, those are the rules. I don't know if he, in fact, voted for the subsidies for those. I don't know. Remember, that was done by President Obama by executive order.
If he doesn't show up, the debate doesn't go forward, and 3 different versions of Obamacare repeal don't get voted down.
Right. By the way, I'm happy that he came back, and I'm all in favor of it. I just wish he had voted differently at the end of the day.
I'm not happy he came back. I wish he rehabbed in Arizona, and we'd still be talking about a better alternative to Obamacare before
maybe that would have happened
3 times because he voted against it.
Yep.
I mean, it really feels to me, Joe, like he was just being an anti-Trump obstructionist.
This is making up for the Keating 5. He has never stopped making up for the Keating 5 scandal, where he underwent.
Making up for the shot that Trump took at him.
I really don't
this is, you know, let me just tell you something. There's no doubt. He just doesn't. He doesn't like Trump. Period. That's it.
Listen, that may be true, but I think that he had just had issues with the bill, so he decided to vote against it.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
then why start the debate? If you're not there, you don't start the debate, and it doesn't get voted down 3 times.
Yeah, but
am I wrong?
he voted for repeal in the past.
Right.
But he didn't like
so
this
why
bill
not now?
Because he said that this bill ultimately would have
You know what?
increased
If you're a legislator, you can always find a reason to not vote for something. You can also this was something that the country needed and that the president needed. He should have voted for it. It would have gone to conference. You can work it out. It would have been a better bill.
You're cutting him slack. You said you're glad he came back. I mean, if you're going to be an obstructionist and vote 3 different versions down. Don't bother.
I didn't know what he was going to do when he came back.
But wait, is that fair to say that for sure he's an obstructionist? I know he didn't vote to move it forward, but maybe he was being a principled in his
I don't know. Let's get Corey away.
Look, I think at the end of the day, you have to hold people accountable is always the problem. And if you remember in these general elections, and specifically the primaries where John McCain is running, he always runs to the right. And then he says, you know, I'm going to be a better conservative. I'm going to support the president's agenda, a state that the president did very well in Arizona. If you remember, they begged for the president's endorsement of John McCain when he was in the primary, when candidate Trump was running. He did endorse candidate Trump. Candidate Trump endorsed John McCain in that race towards the tail end of his competitive primary cycle. And here's where we are. Here's the payback. You know what we say in New Hampshire? No good deed goes unpunished. Just remember that. But let me tell you something. There should be accountability.
But Corey, let me ask you
there should be accountability on elected officials who don't support the president's agenda.
But if the president, well, it's not him putting up the bill, but if the Senate had put forth a bill that was actually conservative in nature, you think John McCain would have voted against it?
Here's what I think. I know that there was a time period where Mike Lee, the conservative senator from Utah, wasn't on the bill, and Ted Cruz wasn't on the bill. And guess what the White House did? They brought them in. They said, what do we have to do? We're gonna increase the HSA premiums so you can put more money into your HSAs. And guess what Mike Lee said? That sounds like a reasonable thing to do, because what do we care how much money people put into their HSA? They should be able to put in whatever they want to. And you come along because people had concerns about the bill, and the White House worked to alleviate those concerns so that when the bill came up for a final vote, everyone thought this bill was going to move forward. Now, we knew we'd lose a couple.
And it's not like McCain didn't know what the offers were prior to voting to push the bill to a vote that he was going to vote against. If that's the case, then don't vote to push the debate forward to get to a vote and spend some more time.
I feel like that would have hurt him too, though, Eric.
It was a very James Comey move. It was a very James Comey move to come back, vote to go forward, and then he knew he was going to vote against it at the end. That's a Comey-esque.
I just feel like if he would have stifled the debate, I think if he would have stifled the debate, there would have been a political consequence around that too, though, Joe. Come on.
Let me tell you something.
Look at it this way. Look, if you're McCain and you have the 3 versions, you know they're going to be voted upon, and you don't like any of the 3, right? What's the rush to cast the vote that pushes it to a vote? Why not just
when the president
say, you know what?
calls on you and
Let's
says,
wait.
you know what?
Let's wait and see if we can find something.
Vote it and send it to conference. Vote aye and send it to conference. There's a lot that can happen.
Well, I think we all can agree there's big problems with the bill, right? So I just think it's a hard statement, though, Eric Bolling, to say I'm not even going to get discussion around it. That's all. I just think the political consequence of that.
Well, you know it's going down.
John McCain could have expressed privately his concerns about the legislation, worked with the White House to make that bill better, which is what other members of the U.S. Senate did, so that when the bill came up for a vote, not till the end was the issue, right? And Mike Lee and Ted Cruz and others who had concerns about the bill worked with the White House and their team to craft a bill that was acceptable to everybody. John McCain never did that for a lot of reasons. That's either a failure of his staff or it's a failure of someone over there.
He did something a Democrat would do to President Trump. He literally did something a Democrat would do to President Trump.
What does that mean? I got to do this. I got to do this Fox News alert. I'm sure this is not going anywhere. It must be confirmed now that Christopher Wray is officially confirmed as our brand new FBI director. Wow. So there it is right now on the floor. Okay, so again, he's talking about Comey. It's a new day, at least in the FBI. Comey's gone out of here forever. Christopher Wray now is the new FBI director. Now, let me ask you this, Joe. You have been appointed as an independent counsel before in investigations. Your feelings around what this new confirmation means in relation to Mueller also having a simultaneous investigation?
Well, I find the special counsel appointment in this matter absolutely indefensible. I do not believe that he should have been appointed, and I certainly believe that he has a conflict of interest with Mr. Comey being in the case. It's appalling.
But now that we have a new director, do you think
he's not going to have anything to do with any of those decisions? Well, you know, thank God we have a new director. I hope he can stand up. He's a very quiet guy. I hope he's strong enough to run this very, very important agency. I don't know if he is.
When we return, ICE signs a new agreement with more than a dozen law enforcement agencies in Texas. So what does this mean for the immigration debate moving forward? Stay with us.
ICE signs new agreements with 18 Texas counties to help boost their immigration enforcement policies. The agreements, in some cases, giving state law enforcement the same authority as federal immigration officers. ICE says the move, part of its 287G program, will help enhance the county's safety, but critics claim the partnerships go too far and could add to mistrust between immigrants, I'll note illegal immigrants, and police officers. Eboni, let me just take this one step further. The agreement says that the program allows law enforcement officers to identify people they've already arrested as being in the United States illegally, detain them in local jails for possible deportation. That is exactly what the administration and people on the right have said we needed to do. Tie up where local law enforcement can go into the jail and check status. Do you disagree with this?
I don't disagree with Eric. You know how I feel about sanctuary cities. I think they make immigrant, legal, and illegal communities less safe and certainly greater society less safe. This is my issue, and I told you I have a solution to this. Immigration is a federal jurisdiction issue at its base level. So I just think, how about the president? Here's a nice way he can do 2 for 1. He can make good on his jobs creation title promise. Give this to the federal government, Eric, because this is what this does in Texas. Maybe Texas will be better on this issue. But you know what? California, Arizona, possibly several other states are still going to be bifurcated on how they're handling this. So we're still going to have Kate Steinle's and other instances where this is still falling through the cracks. Leave this to the federal government.
And let me guess, you want it to go to the states, right? I mean, and this takes it even further, goes into local law enforcement municipalities and says, you can go in and find out, check immigration status.
Right, but of course that is supposed to be ICE's job. So how does it's interesting though, Eboni, I wanted to ask you about this when I saw this. Is it legal because they're deciding, yes, we do want to participate? Because I know that the federal government can't force local law enforcement to do their jobs, but is it different because they're asking them to participate?
They're essentially opting in, and they absolutely have the right to do that, Kat. But my concern is, it's going to be better in Texas. Sure, great. But then again, what about California? What about New York State and several states that we know are going to opt out? And
Eric, I do think that, you know, the states, if they want to do that, they should be able to do that, which is what makes it different.
We're going to have a piecemeal. It's fine, but you're saying what piecemeal immigration.
This is all about the president fulfilling his campaign promises. More ICE agents, more immigration officers, cracking down on illegal immigration coming across our borders. What we've seen under General Kelly's regime at the Department of Homeland Security is 70% less border crossings of illegals. You know why? They don't want to come here anymore because they know if they get caught, they're going to be put in jail. They're going to be deported. Look, this is fantastic. I love when local law enforcement coordinates with federal law enforcement, all for the same mission, which is very simple. Protect American citizens from illegal aliens who are trying to come over and kill us. It's very simple.
This is the culmination of the president's policy. These local communities that have opted in, who've agreed to be deputized and perform this function, this is the best example of federalism you can think of, where the federal government and the locals are cooperating. For those states that don't want to do it, they're missing a great opportunity to make their citizens safer.
I just never bought that argument that if you enforce immigration law, you're going to tick off the communities or people who would be going to the police to turn over criminals.
Well, I don't think it's a fugazi argument, though, because what we know is some people do feel. Here's the issue. Let's say I'm a woman and I'm here legally. Say my husband's here illegally. He's abusing me. Am I really going to call law enforcement knowing that he's probably going to be deported? No, but that really happens.
If he's married to you, isn't he legal now?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And here's the other point. It's not just that they're missing a good opportunity, though, Joe, the states that opt out of it. That is putting greater society at real risk. I'm saying for the sake of not having a piecemeal immigration problem persist in this country, let's give it to the feds.
The president is making the point, you either have a law and obey it or you don't. You either have a legal system or you don't have one.
Corey, your thoughts on, I just love the idea of empowering local law enforcement officers to check an immigration status. I think that's exactly what we've needed for a long time.
You know what the local law enforcement officers ask for? And every law enforcement officer across the country, of which I had the privilege of being one day, let me do my job. Let me go out and do my job, which is to protect American citizens. If that means I can stop bad guys who are here illegally and put them in jail, I want to do that. If that means you've committed a crime by coming across our borders when you weren't supposed to, that is a crime, and we're going to stop you from doing that.
It works everywhere. Right? No, it doesn't. On the streets of New York, you know what most law enforcement are going to say around that? Hands off. They're not going to touch it, and that's the reality.
Give them the opportunity to opt in so that in my home state of New Hampshire...
Do you think they're going to opt in New York State,
Look,
Corey?
you know what? I think there's a whole bunch of places in New York State that want to make sure illegals are not taking over their communities and putting people out of work and killing Americans. Yeah, I think there's a lot of police officers who want to make sure of that.
This is a great case study on what works better. Where is crime? Where's crime by illegal immigrants higher in sanctuary cities or in municipalities
right now around that?
Municipalities where this
what could be better than when you arrest someone for committing a crime, you can check their status of whether or not they're in the United States legally. My God, how can you object to that?
But Eboni, what do you do besides the opt-in? Because if the federal government can't force the local governments to do their jobs because of the Constitution, what else do you do besides opting in?
That is why my solution, I really do think, is the best one, because it eliminates that choice, Kat. Because, again, it's for states that choose it, it's excellent.
By bringing the feds into the states.
Yes, uniformly.
But they can't function properly without the assistance of the authorities, no matter how much power they have over immigration.
You know what the other thing is? You don't have to. You can empower them to do it. A cop doesn't have to do it if he doesn't want to.
That's right.
But certainly I like them having that arrow in the quiver of law.
We always called it another tool in the tool belt. You want to have as many tools as possible and use the one that best fits the situation at any given time. Very important.
But if we're all on the same page at this entire table around eliminating illegal immigration and making greater society safer, I am saying let's not allow individual officers to cherry pick if they're going to opt in or out of that type of coverage. That's all.
Right. You know what? Ebony's fired up on the immigration. All right, coming up, a new threat from North Korea, the rogue state claiming it has a missile capable of hitting the U.S. That's scary enough. We'll be right back with more.
Welcome back to the Fox News Specialist. Our specialists today are diGenova and Corey Lewandowski. So we will now continue the conversation. On July 28th, North Korea launched another intercontinental ballistic missile test, which has the possibility of reaching the U.S. But not to fear, when the missile re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, it began to fall apart. Now, last Sunday, U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, joined the discussion on North Korea's recent missile launch, tweeting, quote, "China is aware they must act. Japan and South Korea must increase pressure. This is not only a U.S. problem." The question remains if these countries will side with the U.S. to end North Korea's mounting military madness. Now, Eric Bolling, it seems that a lot of people are relieved to know that, yes, they can get here, but they're having problems getting back. But ultimately, aren't they just going to try to improve that? And ultimately, are we still in complete danger?
And I think we talked about this a while back. The speed at which they're becoming more powerful and getting more distance on their missiles is insane. It's like in the last 10 years, it's multiplied, both with the size of the warhead that they can carry and the distance that they claim that they'll be able to go. It's only a matter of time.
Right.
But so what are we going to wait until they shoot? I mean, it's 38 minutes from Pyongyang to New York. Right. 38 minutes. Yeah. There's no time to shoot that down in 38 minutes. Or if there is, we'd have to be very lucky. My suggestion, again, I've said it here, go deep state, Corey, on this one. Go underground and dismantle their nuclear capability. If they find out it's us, too bad.
I think that's a great idea. But let me ask you this from Nikki Haley's point of view, Corey. She's saying this similar to what I've said. We need a global coalition around this. Lots of people say just, leave it to China. Nikki Haley saying, China needs to step up. Obviously, we see they're not really stepping up. What should we do to incentivize that?
Look, the president has said very clearly that originally he wanted to work with China to come up with a solution to put pressure on North Korea. It is a problem not just for North Korea and between North and South Korea. It's a problem for the entire world. And the economic sanctions that China has the ability to implement on a country which is still trying to grow its way, North Korea, is very strong. Now, don't forget, the U.S. is the largest economy in the world. We do an amazing amount of business with China. The president said we're not going to use trade per se until we can try and have a better relationship with China to put pressure on North Korea. If that isn't working, we need to use every option available to us, including but not limited to trade sanctions with China, to encourage them and force them to make North Korea reduce their missile program and come into compliance.
And you believe President Trump will be willing to go that trade route, which a lot of people have always been hands off around?
The president has said there is nothing more dangerous than a nuclear catastrophe, obviously. It's very important that we use every resource available.
I've always believed that a covert action involving cyber attacks is the way to deal with North Korea. Destroy their infrastructure, the infrastructure that allows them to construct the missiles, to fire the missiles, to make the nuclear weapons. This is the way you have to deal with this. We're not going to have a war because the South Koreans are the ones that don't want one. The North Koreans have checkmated us. The only way to break the checkmate is to go under the chess table and destroy them from the inside. And that's cyber. It's cyber. Now, if NSA can collect every email in the world every minute of the day,
except Hillary.
Why the hell? Except Hillary's. By the way, the NSA has every one of those deleted emails.
Nice,
just ask them for it.
That's nice. Kat, I mean, obviously there's no easy answers, no clear answers, no clean answers when it comes to North Korea. And I don't really believe any that leave no casualties on the table. Let's take Joe's recommendation around cyber. Where does that leave China? Do you think that at this point in the game, we just kind of say to hell with China? They're obviously not going to get on board and cooperate with this in the way that we need them to, and we go it a different way?
Well, it's going to be very hard to convince China to do something that they don't want to do. But if it gets to the point where China's going to have to want to do something, which they would in the case of a war, they don't want that kind of conflict in that area. We've now seen South Korea and Japan talk about wanting to, have these nuclear weapons as well. They don't want that happening over there. And in that case, they would actually do something. The tension for them is kind of fun. Like, oh, I know you need us to help, and we're not helping. And meanwhile, we're benefiting this way and that way. But if it actually reached the point of war, China, that would be the absolute worst. They'd have a target, and also there'd be a refugee crisis. And when it reaches that point, they have to want to do it for themselves. But yeah, there really are no good solutions. And if you talk about things like regime change, I'll say things like how. We've tried that other places, and we've never really stopped being at war in those places when we've tried it. So
I guess my concern, though, Kat, is the timeline. When we start talking about if it gets to this point and if it gets to that point, talking about what, my goodness, we know they can almost get here. We almost know that for certain now. How much longer are we going to wait to see what the most severe consequence would look like?
Right, and I don't think that there is a good solution. I don't claim to have one, at least. Yeah. And nobody really seems to have one. It's very, very tough because getting involved in that era, that we're talking about a massive, potentially even globally involved conflict where millions upon millions would die.
It's different from getting involved in a Syrian conflict where Syrians don't have an issue with us. They have an issue internally. They have a civil war going on, or a Middle Eastern conflict. These people want to kill us. They are specifically developing missiles to kill the United States of America. They really don't care about South Korea that much. Probably don't even care that much about Japan. This is a development because they can reach Japan now. They've dropped missiles into Japan Sea. They're going after an ability to kill us. So at what point do we say, we're not going to let you get to that capability because you're clearly going after it and they're getting closer?
Well, he also knows that it's suicide. It's absolutely would be suicide.
I think that goes back to the checkmate argument Joe might have been referring to. But up next, time really does fly when you're having fun. We at the Fox News Specialists, we turned 3 months old today. Yay! We'll show you some of our top highlights from July. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us.
No matter what I do, 'cause I always travel with you. I guess I'm guilty. Don't matter if it's true, 'cause I always travel.
It's been a wild month here from the Fox News specialists. We've had a lot of breaking news and a lot of laughs, too. Check out these highlights from the last few weeks featuring some fan favorite specialists.
Hey, everybody, I'm Eboni K. Williams, along with Eric Bolling and Katherine Timpf. We are the Fox News specialists.
Sheriff David Clark.
Joe Concha.
J.D. Hayward.
Mark Levin.
Kristen Tate.
Taya Kyle.
Antonio Sabato Jr.
Sonata Azam.
Kirsten Hagland.
Mike O'Hara is here.
Eric, I just want to thank you for introducing Mark first, because it was like the Rolling Stones and this. Oh, no, I don't think so.
I think sanctions make us feel good. That's the problem I had with the Iran deal. There's no way to really enforce them. Therefore, they become completely ineffective.
The search for the leaks, it's a lot like Trump's hair, that even if it's real, it still looks bad.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What does that mean? Searching out the leaks kind of looks like Trump's hair. Even if it's real, it looks bad. Searching out leaks it looks bad.
I can't think of a single example where it's been good for a free country to have a politician surrounded by only yes men.
When he saw who she was, where she came from, and what she wanted to meet about, that should have been the stop sign right there.
Maybe this is where Scaramucci will be better positioned. He seems to understand the tone, the tenor, the texture of President Trump a lot better.
Eric, give the book cover pose before we go there. Give the book cover. It's hot.
We're going to make the assumption that Russia's better at beating us at the game than we are at them.
We don't support our police officers. We don't give them the support that they need. We don't give them the morale that they need. Chicago is just a perfect example of what's going to happen all across the country.
Have these disagreements within the party? How do you solve that? Because people aren't budging.
They're not used to the rules of politics.
No, that's not it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Don Jr. didn't know what was going on, because he did.
We need to come up with solutions, not just complain about
Stop calling
where
it
we are,
straight
how we got
repeal.
it.
Stop, get off that rhetoric, get to a solution.
I sleep so well every night. How about when he said to Anderson Cooper, Anderson, that is absolutely laughable.
Isn't it amazing how you don't actually have to grow a mustache anymore? What if Geraldo's mustache was CGI the whole time?
I hate the guy. I believe he got away with a brutal double homicide. I believe that he exacerbated the racial tensions in this country.
Are you mad at OJ?
Of course, he stabbed my brother to death and decapitated his wife.
If ever anyone says hi to you, you have to say, it's Mr. Cantaloupe time back.
Nice job.
Cantaloupe. We have a cantaloupe for some reason.
Really, Evan, blame the lawyers.
How many people cry for a lawyer?
I know.
What's a weekend look like for you? You seem like a very, very fun person. The photographer is now being sued by an animal rights group for copyright protection.
On behalf of the monkey, really, I don't think the monkey cares.
5 kids?
Yes, 5 girls.
5 girls.
One is named Kat and the other Ebony. It's really worked out.
I whipped a little something up for each of you.
You got my eye color perfectly correct. I have green eyes.
Well done, Monaco. Monaco, you put that together. That's our producer, senior producer.
James, you made the cut, too. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Absolutely great. Great stuff to see. What a month. What a nice July we've had.
You know, it's just like more and more awesome.
Everyone is right about my laugh, though. I just don't know what to do about it.
Wait, what are people saying about your laugh?
Oh, it just sounds kind of like it's a horse laugh a little bit.
No, I think
But it's okay. Like, people like horses. Little girls want them for their birthdays and stuff. So it's not bad, right?
It's all good.
But since when are we anti-horses, America? I thought that we had decided that. Okay. We've got to say goodbye to our specialist, Joe diGenova. Woo! Did I do it right? Was it good? And Corey Lewandowski, thank you both for joining us. Thank you so much. Was that right, diGenova?
You got it.
You got it.
All right.
Corey,
Yes!
Corey, are you going to rejoin the administration or join the administration?
I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing right here and get you great ratings on the show. How's that? That's what I do.
Right.
You'll come back, right?
Of course.
All right, up next, it's Wait What? Don't go away.
And now it's time for our last segment. Time for... All right, I'm going to kick it off. Okay, so over the weekend, I was on the book tour. I was going from Houston to Dallas, driving along a roadside barbecue place. Bumped into a guy named Denny Graham. I walk in, he's playing guitar, and he said, "I love The Specialist." I was like, "You do? Come on and have dinner or have lunch with us." He sat down. I wrote a few lines. I said, "Can you play this? Can you make a song about this?" Listen to what he came up with.
Well, Fox Specialist, every golden cat never need, doing everything they can for you and me. Make America great again. Make America great again. Fox Specialists, make America great again.
Make America great again. Kat, you're
What a nice man. All right, so today is National Respect for Parents Day, so I wanted to share my favorite picture of me with my parents. You want to see it? There we are. Do you see me? You see me? You see me?
No, Kat.
Are you on
Where are
this?
you? No.
Can we zoom in on that? No.
Kat?
There she is. Look at how cute we are. We're all having such a nice time at the cider mill.
Sweet. That's hysterical. All right, my turn. So we're going to put up this full split screen. This is a guy in Texas, you guys. I need your vote on this. I can't tell whether to feel bad for this guy or whether he's the biggest idiot in America. Over the course of 2 years, he gave $80,000 to a woman he never met before, only communicated via Twitter, text message, and Skype. $80,000 he's out of, never met the woman in 2 years.
For what?
Wait, thinking he was in a relationship with her.
Was that a picture of him?
Yes.
And he's good looking.
I know.
Why is he so sad?
I want to say poor guy, but maybe not so smart.
I want to know
You
more.
what they say. Fool and his money are soon parted. That's all I have time for. Thanks for watching. Make sure to follow us on social media. Specialist FNC on Twitter and Facebook. Remember, 5 o'clock will never be the same. Special report, prepare, coming up right now. 5, 4,